Amanda Cobble, Amanda Jane. She was as near a second mother to me as could possibly be. See, these are all tintypes. And that's Mama's sister, Aunt Ellen. She was stone deaf, and she was around 80, between 84 and 86. She was living in a little town by the name of Trona in Illinois, and she was running uptown after some sugar and stepped in front of a freight train and killed herself. This is Aunt Fern. People can't understand why this Kenny Miller that farms my farm, and his father's name is Miller. Well, she was married to a man by the name of Copperthwaite, and he was a drunkard and a thief. And he'd get drunk when the family had nothing to eat. He'd go steal a chicken out of the neighbor's chicken house, and my grandfather went there one day, and Aunt Fern was a-crying and cooking this chicken that she knew darn well was stole out of it. So Grandpa picked her up and brought her home, and simply took her by the hand and filed for divorce, and it cost him $75 to have the two boys' names changed to Miller, but their legal name is Miller, but they were born with the name Copperthwaite. These are cousins of mine. You know, these people are so crazy that these tintypes, this is one of Mama's sisters. And that's her sister's boy. And this is Mama's oldest brother. He died here at this house. He had a stroke, and his wife kicked him out. Mom and I was going to town, and there was a railroad track that went through up here. We looked down the road, and we saw this man carrying a suitcase with this one arm. I don't know how Mama could tell that far away, and she says, "Good man, that's my brother Harv." And we waited and picked him up, and he couldn't talk from his stroke, and he was paralyzed on his right side. We brought him here, and he died sitting in a chair in that front room. And Aunt Fron died upstairs in my bed. Now, I don't know who Granny Cameron is. It's some of Mama's relation, but I don't know who. And this was, I can take you down here to Rock Creek and show you where my great-grandmother was buried. Richard and I stopped, was that last spring, Richard? And we hunted till we found it. We found the grave. That's Mama when she was in the grave. Did you like that picture of Mama when she was a little girl?
Oh.
This book needs prepared with, and that's, I think I only have one, because that's another one Mama when she was in the grave. I never think it's time here to be moving. I'm sure. Well, you know, I've always said that was Mama, but I don't believe that is. Does that look like the same person to you? Well, now Mama's written it on here. Here she was when she was a baby in there. This is that dress that's upstairs.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't believe that is Mama. But see, this is her writing on there, so we know it is. These are Laura's two girls. And I said, this Leota, I learned to like pretty well as we got, what little I saw of her as we got older. But it was awfully hard for me to forgive them that they couldn't take care of their own father after he'd had a stroke and sent him away from his family. Okay, now here's, this is great-grandmother Miller. That would be Robert Miller's mother.
Marianne.
No, Marianne was his wife.
Oh, that would be Polly Free.
Yeah, and this is Aunt Betsy and Aunt Katie. Aunt Katie and Aunt Betsy. They lived to be past 91. Now, where they're buried, I do not know. Don't know anything about it. But they grew up in the Salem. Now, have you ever been to the New Salem Park?
I have, but we're
Well,
going to
that's
see
where we're gonna
now.
go.
And you know the Miller Kelso cabin. I've never been able to trace the exact relation. Ben Miller said that Miller was a cousin of Robert.
Mhm.
But whether that, and I don't know how to trace the relationship, but whatever you do, you want to stand and look through the window and see the profile of Abe Lincoln that was accidentally laid up in the chimney. A perfect profile when you stand back and look this way through the window, this perfect profile of Abe Lincoln. But they actually, Mama spent an awful lot of time at their house. And they had a cage that they kept your milk and everything in, and they had big stone jars. And Mama said when they'd go down to skim the cream off, she said she'd see them do it 1,000 times. They'd take their finger, go around like this, and have green mold on the top of it. And they'd lick their finger like that. They lived way into their 90s. But she said that she knew it was the truth because Aunt Betsy and Aunt Katie wouldn't have told me anything but the truth. But they used to go to building parties with Abe Lincoln. And they said he was such a big, wealthy thing that everybody was always pulling a joke on him. So one night, they buried a needle in his chair. I mean, he sat down, they ran it in his hip and broke it off.
Mm.
And they had to take him to the doctor to have it cut out. Now, that's not in any history book.
Oh, no.
But Mom says, well, I don't care if it's never in any book. I know that it happened. And these were the people that, this was what they called their great salt dish, and this was their small salt dish. And there was originally a little tiny silver spoon, but they took it out of there and put it into their book. But I think I've got some more pictures of Betsy and Kate out there. This one, now you're going to get some laughs over here. You know, that's yours. This, Bill, see if I can find out really who it is. I've gone through this book, and anybody whose mother and father was pictured in here. See, I've got your mom and dad's wedding picture up here, like that.
Yeah.
Now, isn't this the same picture that was in Tim Dyke? No,
I think you sent me a copy of that.
this one. Oh yeah, this was Grandma Bragg, and this was Grandma Miller, and this was her sister. We have the biggest idea who that is. Look at that. Look at that. This was Mama's sister, had Alan Horn. I did love her. Meanest man that ever lived, Alan Horn. This was Aunt Mandy. She lived up here in town. And Aunt Mandy, Uncle Alec was 31 when they were married. And they'd been courting, so I bet. And this was the way he proposed to her. Well, Miss Miller, we might just as well take a chance. There's only twice in a man's life that he gets married, and that's when he's young. He doesn't have any sense, and so old he's lost his sense.
Oh.
Shall we get married?
Oh.
And this was Uncle Clint.
Well, that's in that paper too.
Mm-hmm.
That picture.
This is Uncle Harv. And that's Clint when he was a young man. His son Ben, I went to Florida to help take care of him when he died. And he was, I think, must have been about 77, not a gray hair in his head. Uncle Will. Now, he's got a son by the name of Cy, that's someplace in the South. And he is a multimillionaire. He's going to be able to Uncle Charlie got his 3 boys live out in California. His oldest boy was head of the mechanical part of a big garage there in out here. Well, it was a suburb of Los Angeles. I went to see him one time when I was out here. And I must have given that pictures of, what about the Jake picture right here?
No, that's not the Robert Miller.
No, this is Mama's brother, Robert Miller. This was the only one that Mama didn't like and didn't get along with. But Mama was engaged to a jewelerman, and Uncle Bob told some kind of a lie and broke Mama and this boy up. Mama never did forgive him for it. Now here's where you get the laugh. Back in those days, if the young couple had to get married, they had to wear black gloves.
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
That's kind of embarrassing, though.
I guess.
Now, you can
Yeah, you
see,
can tell.
you can see their black gloves. Okay, then here they were. They they moved to this same part of the country. They grew up in New Holland, but here they are, and they're at this wedding anniversary. But whenever you see an old time wedding picture, but you see, they didn't wear white back in those days for wedding dress. If they had a veil, they were lucky. But I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I never knew that before.
Uncle Lem was Grandpa Miller's twin brother. I think now you've got a picture of the twins.
No.
Well, I gave Burl I gave Melvin Miller, Linda King, the big picture that I had of Mama's family. Then he took a picture. He was always going to send it back to me, but he said it was so fragile he was afraid it would get ruined. Then I had another good one, another big one, and I gave it to Burl, and I'll probably come to bed, I don't know. But it was not about. This was the one Mama was engaged to. There's Aunt Betsy and Aunt Katie.
Well, they look so mean or mad or something.
Don't they though?
Oh.
That's a close-up of them. They were Grandpa Miller's sisters. That's Mama when she was a young girl. With her cousin in the bed. And that's some hat.
Yeah, it is.
That evidently was Mama's mother when she was young. That isn't my writing. These were Ellen's two kids. That was Dad when he was young. That's the movie. I'll turn this over.
I can't find these fully on like that anymore.
That's Uncle Horace Wilson. That's Uncle Kent's girls. That's Robert Cobble. I think see some more. I don't know. Kind of around now. That's Charlie Martin. Richard, come here a minute. You know Paul Bond that was here Monday?
Yeah?
Wasn't he a cute little boy?
Yeah, they're all cute when they're little.
Maybe they were asleep and not having nightmares. You know? That's Mama and her two sisters, Aunt Fanny and Aunt Fanny. Maybe you'll remember her picture. I don't know. I can sure see Susan and Mama when she was that age. So many of you. I had to trace down, and now this is Cecil Miller, and Robert Cobble, and Charlie Bond, and Paul Bond, and Leslie Miller. Now this is Kenny Miller's. Look at this one, Richard.
So you got another wild one?
This is Kenny's dad when he was a young boy. And this is the one that was just here to visit us. This one's dead, and that one's dead, and that one's dead. That's Mama's Where did we get a picture of Grandma?
Hmm.
She died when she was just, Mama was 18 when she died, and she was just past 60. But they didn't, back in those days, they couldn't analyze what was wrong with people. Mama said she had dropsy. Well, she wasn't able to walk for, I think Mama said 2 years, and Mama had to pull her in with a rocking chair, and Mama said she would just hit that rocking chair back and take on the place she wanted to go. Well, that's the old timers. Now then, I want to find that picture of your mother if I can. This is a home of some real good friends of mine.
Oh my. Oh my. People actually live in it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, this is the houses. This is where my dad and mother started keeping house. That's Grandpa and Grandma Grin out in front. This is where your Grandpa girl was born. This is where Carrie and I was born. And then this is this house. And then this is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. This one. Picture your grandpa girl when he was a baby. Harry when he was a baby. And all 3 of us. All 3 of us, when he was one of them, said that tractor was 3 kids. I can't. Now, Richard don't believe I ever drove a horse and buggy to take water to the field, but that's your dad, that's your grandpa out shocking oats with me, and Miss Harry sticking his head out the back. And that's a girl there too. We went with Dorothy Cooper all through grade school and high school and 3 years of college, and Dorothy had a riding suit and the whole bit, but she didn't have a saddle and she didn't have a saddle blanket. So when I got to ride my pony, I always had to ride bareback, because Dorothy had to have a saddle because she couldn't get her good tail to make suit dirty. The girl worked his brains out for her. I'm sure this is, you know what, I'll bet this is Mama's book, and I'll bet that picture of Joanne is in my book. Harry and I on North Sand Pile. When I was about, when I was 3, Mama took the 2 boys and went to Illinois to visit and left me home with Dad. We lived down there, we had a flat roofed house, and we would always sleep. And they through the upstairs, and I was sleeping with Dad, and we had heavy, all the wallpaper on the wall was called oatmeal wallpaper. And I think it actually had, Richard didn't, that oatmeal paper everybody used to use, didn't it honestly have ground oatmeal in it?
Say that again?
When, you know, when we first used wallpaper for our houses, it was called oatmeal wallpaper. And you rubbed your hand over it and it was rough, like it had pieces of straw or something in it. Don't you remember oatmeal wallpaper? Gosh, I didn't know anybody had anything else. Well, anyway, the wallpaper got full of this water and it flowed down like this, and Dad and I didn't know it, and it busted right above the bed. And all that water came in, and everybody slept in the feather bed. And you know, I can remember just as plain as if it was yesterday. Dad got a dish pan and was scooping the water up out of the bed, taking it in. But then one year Mama took me and left the boys at home. And Aunt Ellen had a banty rooster. And oh, I was so crazy about it. So she gave it to me. Of course, we had to go on the train. And you had to carry your food in a lunch basket because there was no food served on the train. It took you all day to go from here to New Holland, Illinois. And for some reason, the train came back at night. And Mom and I both went to sleep, and all of a sudden heard a rooster crow. Aunt Ellen warned us to sure you don't let down the basket because the conductor finds it out and put you off the train. Well, somewhere this darn rooster got out of the basket and was sitting on the back of the seat just crowing up a storm. We got him home all right. And we kids were so crazy about it, we played with him until we killed him. I know that's very well what happened because we just played with him all the time. And this was the old summer kitchen that was out behind the house, and back here was the chick sales. We did have an indoor toilet, but you were only allowed to use it at night. So out behind the toilet, Will and Harry and I got a box, and we got the chicken and the rooster up, and we had a funeral, and we sang songs, and we planted flowers on his grave. This is Kaz and Martha. Now that would be my own grandmother. They just tore this house down that Harry used to live in about a year and a half ago. Since Harry moved away from there, I won't even drive by the place. This is my dad's brother. He had one brother and two sisters. This is one of his sisters. They were all, both of his sisters were 300 pounds. Picture of mom and dad and Jim. Now Richard said he never heard tell of a case car, but this is, Dad bought the Talbonovas in 1911. And this is his new case car. And yet he was a case car dealer. And this was one of them. And then we went to this one. Oh, this was a sport job. They did the roof down, or you could put the roof up, and it had side curtains that had plate glass in it. No, that isn't the plate glass one, because it had front-mounted tires. We'll find that sooner or later. This is Mama's sisters after they were grown, Aunt Fanny and Aunt Crone. And Aunt Mandy and Aunt Ellen, and Aunt Ellen's daughter, granddaughter, and her daughter. And two grandsons and husband. This is the four sisters without Mama. This is the way I met courting when I was young, in the rumble seat of a Model A4. Picture Mama when she was younger and had pretty hats. I asked Leslie, Leslie Miller is the oldest cousin left alive. He's 91 years old, and he lives in 10. And I'll question him again. This is Blue Jean School when we had our reunion. I think that we'll come to the picture of the girls so that you'll know what the picture of the boys was many, many years ago. This cousin of mine, my grandpa and grandmother, grandmother raised me, and he said, well, I tried him. But nobody'd ever even seen an airplane. And this airplane came and landed in a field down there, and boy, Granddad was the first one out there. Now this would be Henry Miller, cousin. You know Melvin. Well, this is his father. This is the house where your grandpa girl was born. So we had them cutting off. I better put the meat in. Oh, after a while we want something to eat.
Well, I've been working on it for a couple of years now.
I got a family tree on my first level side. It's got an interesting detail of that.
Yeah.
I wish that I could. In 1921, my dad had some, he gave loans all over the country. He had a loan given to a man up at Lorimor, Colorado. the reason I know it's 1921, I can see the license plate on the car. But he and Mom and Bill and Rachel Wright took off across country, and when there was no map. Your directions was go to the red schoolhouse and turn left, and go to the third house and turn right, and go. This is the way they went from here to Loveland. Mama, excuse me. Mama likes to tell the story that she never stole anything but once in her life. When she went into a grocery store, they would stop at noon and buy stuffed meat sandwiches out of it, and they wanted an onion. And Mom said she stood there for 20 minutes trying to get somebody to wait on her. So she just carried the onion out of the store, and she said they had cut out to make their lunch and sliced it. It was rotten clear through. They'd always stop in the schoolyard to eat, see. And Mama was always so protective of Dad. Dad standing up swinging in the swing, and she was trying to pull him out of there. And Rachel and Bill, they used to sit down and they loved it up a little bit. And Mama had a cousin that lived at Corvallis, Washington.
No, Oregon.
Oregon. And this was her house. Her name was Boswell. She's got a son someplace who lives out there. Alice Boswell. This is the place that the folks went in Lorimor, Colorado, with this man over dead Mama. But out there he was a big sugar beet raiser. Now this is the cemetery where my great-grandmother Bragg was buried.
This right here, this Marshall E. Bragg was the clerk, kept records.
And he did such a beautiful job, but he died about 4 or 5 years ago. Once I got to take Melvin Miller, and I called Miss Penny Bragg. Now Penny Bragg's sister is still living, but she's in the nursing home in Ottumwa, and her mind's getting a little bit fuzzy, and I wonder what become of all those records that he kept. See, when I was a kid, we had family dinners all the time, and this was the family that gathered, and it was always here. Now I'm down to the place that there's Harry still living, Harry and I, and I've got one cousin that lives around here, one Fremont. I still know he lives here, and another Stubbs lives in Fremont. But there's no family half the time we're getting around. This is Melvin and Wayne Miller when they were little kids. Did you ever go to Wayne's house?
No.
You really should.
I wrote him a letter and he never answered.
You'd have to answer his phone on that phone.
Well, I was hoping, because you said something about he had the information on the Braggs.
Not Wayne. It would be Melvin who would have it. Wouldn't it?
No, I asked Melvin about it, and he said he didn't have it.
Well, I don't know whether it might pay you to stop over at Ollie, and I don't know who would have the record, whether there'd be any records in the Rock Creek Church is unlocked. We'll go out here and take a look after a while. But if there'd be anybody down to Ollie that would know where Ken Bragg kept the records that he had, because he had all of them. Caswell and his second wife. This is Grandma Diana Kraft Breon Mefford. This was taken in 1919, and she looked that old from the time that I was a kid, and she lived to be 93 or 4 years old. She's buried over here in Martinford Cemetery. And this is Caswell, her son, my grandfather, her great-great-grandfather. And he had a horror of being buried in the earth when he was dead. so he had a farm built and made a cement wall on top of the ground.
And that's where he's buried now?
Over at Martinsburg, yeah. We'll eat us a bite when this was the new house that the Breons built. This is where Harry and Rose lived on the farm. And that house was in such good repair, and it was such a beautiful house inside, and the people that bought it immediately tore it down. That's Grandpa Breon when he was in grade school. This is the year the Chinch Bucks took us in 1934. That's all we had left from the Chinch Bucks factory. Crop were the one we didn't have. Then after Rose and Harry and Pete and I were married, and of course Dad was broke, he went up to Marshalltown and ran a feed store for, the Federal Land Bank had repossessed it, and Dad went up there and ran it for a year. And Mama was such a flower grower that she went out in the alley at Marshalltown, dug up the alley, and this was donated by, the plants were donated by Wayside Gardens, but Mama had a garden there. We, see, in 1934, we had a cousins picnic with the cousins from Illinois. And these were the straight first cousins that was alive then. Me and Burl and Cecil Miller and Noah Stubbs. Now she's still living. Albert Coppa's dead. Leona Magner's dead. Henry Miller's dead. I hope without her he's still living. And Leslie. Now I think that probably Harry and Rose got to come home this week.
You think so?
I
They.
don't know. We were going to go up and see him Monday in the hospital.
I know.
We're going to go over and see Genevieve Winstead. She just remarried. She was Genevieve Dean. She said something about you today on the phone.
Genevieve Dean.
She used to be Genevieve Gainway.
Oh, now, I called her, what was her other young Genevieve? She married a man quite a lot younger than her, and is she living in the country yet?
Well, both places, in Tumway and Lakesford.
Yeah, I played bridge with her quite a little bit. Did you get, here's the sport case car with the Malibu tires on it. That's such a cute picture of the girl. Have you got a picture of that there? Say March 12th, 19 what? Well, I think there was a picture of me on the side of it because that's my blanket there, and I was in a buggy, and they couldn't ever get a picture of me when I was balding. So there's a picture someplace of Breon and I together, and I'm holding a can of poison in my hand because I wouldn't give it up. I suppose you got that picture. Here. I was bawling like mad, and the photographer took the tears out of my eyes, and that was a can of poison I was playing with. For sure, we had a hired man that worked for us, and he was going to go to the army, and he wanted pictures of me through kids to take it. Well, I was an awful brat. He only had one snap left in his camera, and I stuck my tongue out just as far as I could. And he carried that picture all over France with him, and when he came back, he showed it to me. He said, everybody in France has seen your tongue. This old lady, this house, had been her family home. She was no relation to us whatsoever. It broke her heart when her family sold the home. So as long as we lived down in this house, she'd come and live with us. And then when we moved up here, she'd come and visit. Her home was in Missouri. Her name was Martha Hook. But the only thing that she requested that she be buried from this house. So she lay corpse there in the front hall, and I'd never seen a corpse before. I'd come and sneak over the banister at night and look down there, and then I'd run and jump in my room and cover up my head. Really? But I can remember it just like it was yesterday. Well, we're looking for a picture of Joanne and the dog. I'm just wondering if Earl took it, because he went through this book and took everything that he wanted. Been engaged too many times. And there's no. You keep looking, and I'll look at another place, because I want to find that picture, but if the dog's no fun to you, you can't have a picture.
You better look at your mother and toes.
That's the, where the pie ran over yesterday.
Oh.
I made the pies last night, so it's pie. I sent you these, didn't I?
Yeah.
Susan, she was little girl. But it'll be a picture, I thought it was in the picture for the front out there. I know it hasn't been too long since I saw it, but I don't know. See, I have a... Well, let's see. That was Maud's son. He was my stepbrother. Maud's dead. I suppose you'd say he was my former stepmother. Stepbrother, huh?
Yeah.
This is Grandma Ora and her fourth husband. I'll have to go upstairs and... Did I get... Oh, shoot, that cute boy is.
Oh, we've been seeing so many pictures of him. He knows he's cute now.
That's Mark.
That's Mark?
Yeah, that's Mark.
Now that was a sod house that Frank Breon lived in out in near Salina, Kansas.
Frank?
Frank Breon.
I don't remember who he is. There was a Philip Breon that we were told had a sod house out there.
Well, maybe Philip. Maybe Philip. I know we're too far along in the book.
That's a good picture right
Let's see, someplace there's a picture of we four together. This was that Goon I was engaged to marry. First time I was engaged, and that's me and Breon. I was married.
there. Like this one?
Yeah, isn't
That's a
that,
good
Isn't that a
picture.
good picture?
Mm-hmm.
Have you got one of those?
I think so.
Well, I thought that I had a reprint made because I didn't have the one picture of that.
Yeah. So that's me.
Oh, yeah.
Is that in Pocahontas?
Did you ever go back down to Kirk and look at your old house?
No. Kay and Mom and Dad did. There it is.
Yeah.
There
Mhm.
it is, yeah.
The ear's broken. No, the ear's not broken on it.
Yeah.
That was a little red wagon, and you take it out, take it. And I would say that Joanne was about 2 years old. But wherever she went, that dog went with her.
I wonder if she doesn't remember it.
I can't tell which one of these is one of you kids. I know one of them is. See, is it you and Pat that's a day apart in age?
No, that's Gary.
Huh?
Gary and me, they're 2 days apart.
Gary and what?
Oh, that's my other cousin. Yeah, Pat Sellman.
Pat.
He's 2 days older than me.
His birthday's the first and yours is the third.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then this must be, one of them must be you when you was a baby.
Yeah, that's Miracle.
17.
Well, let's write it on there. This is Mike and Steve. Kirk, that would be Pat then, wouldn't it? I thought I had a picture of Joanne Walker carrying my dog. I knew I had one that was sitting in a little red wagon. Now, if you want that picture of that side house, you're welcome to it because
Okay.
there's no way
We're gonna be going there anyway.
where the Kansas.
Yeah, we're gonna try to visit some people. And Gary's really getting interested in the Breon family. He's gonna be talking to some people in Pennsylvania that are Breons that we don't know who they are. Kind of trace it.
Well, out in Los Angeles, I ran onto a Jane Breon. Of course, see, when I was a kid, you called it Bryn. Now the kids all call it Breon. And she said that her husband's name was Frank, but she was the second wife and had only been married a short time. And he died, and she knew nothing of the family history whatsoever. And what Frank Breon was, I don't know.
Who is that?
That's Mom.
You want
No,
to take?
I've got my camera. I can take pictures of pictures too.
You want to take it? This is the way my dad died. No, any pictures that anybody in the family want? Because you know very well when I'm dead and gone, probably they won't even be looked at.
Well, I want to take copies. I want to take pictures of these pictures. Some of these. 'Cause those are valuable.
Jess and Viola Brent Hidley-Kyle taken in front yard of Ringling Brothers Museum in Sarasota, February 1948 by Mrs. Catherine Bongeo. This picture was taken.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got to see her now. She's got her hair in a real long.
That's what we raised and showed. It's me drawing. This is the first Christmas after Mama was gone. Richard, you're sleeping all day.
Well, there's more.
Mama never took a good picture. She always looked like she didn't have any teeth in her mouth. And yet she was an absolutely beautiful woman. Here's a good picture of you, Nancy.
That's Gary.
Gary, I mean. Gary.
Gary.
Jerry.
What's in there?
Here's a picture of Grandpa Kaz and his brother and his brother's wife and Diana. And these are blood relatives here. Grandpa and Grandma Kaz and Martha and Diana Pratt, Breon Mefford, and Uncle Eli. Grandpa just had one brother, and then he had a sister, Jane, and she married a man by the name of Messerschmidt, and Uncle Eli married a woman by the name of Messerschmidt. They were not brother and sister, and Aunt Jane died when she was quite young. This man here It was his sister that Richard was married to, and he's the one that got Richard and I together. Ah, there's a picture of Dad's other wife.
Would this be the real woman?
If that was her name, Frances.
Francis.
Right. She was the meanest one. If you want it, you're welcome.
Oh, okay.
They're right down.
They lived, they were married, 1 year and 1 day. And if they'd been married 1 year and 2 days, I'd have committed suicide. When I saw her, she had a Roman nose. I said, Dad, the only thing I ever learned from horses is any creature that's got a Roman nose is just naturally mean. And I said, that I give that to Jerry when Jerry was 4 years old, and Jerry's now 44. I love it in now, the house every window. If it was in winter, here's a picture that you might think is kind of cute, Kirk. Gary and Jerry. And Girl and Harry. Keith and Gladys and Joanne, Don, Beverly, Rose, me. This was the last time that we was ever together as a family with everybody. Keith was sticking his stomach out there. I guess she wasn't there. Brother was sticking his stomach out. I think this was a good picture. And, girlfriend, they came back so fast for me. Bro, love to talk. This man wanted to learn the cane chairs bad, so I was teaching him how to cane chairs. And he became such an artist, I had to go and work at it for 4 years, but he'd even go out to timber and split the bark and make the woven. My gosh, found out he had cancer 3 weeks ago. He was, his wife was in the hospital. She got her toe cut in a lawnmower and cut her big toe off and part of another one. And he wasn't able to come see her, and as they were moving her out, they were moving him in. He would never go to the doctor. If he knew what cancer was going on and play with him. And 3 days later, he died. That's a good. Okay. That's Susan in my little dress. That's me in the same dress.
Oh, that's Caswell.
Caswell and Martha. Dad. And Eddie. And Edie. And John. I'm going to quick them through these because I don't know whether, well, this one, you wouldn't care much about this. This is my own family here. I did everybody's wedding. I'll go upstairs and see if I still got your mom and dad for one picture. I'll go back to the door. There's Susan standing up and picture Mama's wedding dress, baby dress. Last time people did was out and played with the kids. Susan, as she grew up, It's me and another bluegrass.
A lot of words like that for sure.
Yeah, you got that?
Yeah.
If you didn't, you didn't have it. That's John, isn't it? That's the day of Francis.
Hmm.
Yeah, first time the three cousins have been together. Carol, Dean. This is a sweet picture too.
Never seen mom's hair that way.
Yeah, that was, we had a family picnic down at Tumutha Park for 'em when they was ready to move to Colorado, or San Bernardino. And I think we had stayed for like August, and then close to, when the day they come back. When they come back, of course, we go to the,
I'm not sure.
I know.
It would make sense though that would be the
Yeah. But we moved back down here in 42. And we, see, Earl Scrap was still on the field because he got down to get down during the war, and Scrap's dad couldn't hire anybody to get down. So he asked us if he sold the farm over there. And you saw the little house where they started keeping house. It just
In town, you mean?
Just right around the corner. And the first, when the Christians got married, the house, the big house burned down on that farm over in Stonehurst Road, and they lived in a, they took a summer kitchen, it was what we used to call a stone house, you know, about the size of our tool shed out here, a little bit bigger, because there was plenty of room in there for stoves, and my guys had it fixed up so cute. And then, I don't know how they acquired the place across the road, I guess Dad bought that. Bought it in girl's name, I know. And they went over there and they lived there and then saw. They moved to Colorado, or moved to San Bernardino. And when they came back, Gary stayed with me. And Earl and Gladys and Joanna moved into St. Valley, and then they rented a little house and lived there for a long time. And when after they got the store fixed up in the apartment, and they lived there until they moved to Colorado. I'm gonna see if I can get this bunch of letters out for you, because I want somebody in the family to keep that one where Mama talks about the girl when he was a baby. These pictures from the Lorimor family, I ought to get them all in one place and give them to somebody in the Lorimor family. Like Melvin Miller.
Here's the picture.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that was in that paper that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, now where's,
That's Viola right there.
See, Mama lent that picture to that, and I didn't know that, I didn't know Gary had that newspaper. I had the
I'm gonna get a
newspaper,
copy of that.
the big thick one. Yeah. It was, did you still have all of it, or just got?
oh, just one page of it?
Well, it was not, it was like 2 pages of it. The
Oh,
history of some of
okay.
the families in that town. It was 1956.
Yeah, well, that was my newspaper, and I didn't know who would give it to. but it was a big thick one, but many of the people in there I knew, and maybe Gary just kept a part of it that he was interested in.
Could have been.
I didn't know what ever became of it. But I knew it wasn't upstairs anymore, and I'm good at giving things away. If anybody wants to see the same thing they want, I give it to them. That's Jerry's girl. But Mama had kept diaries her entire life, and all she's got in this is leaving home in January. But I went up there the day after he and Maud, Dad and Maud was married, and I had told Dad that Mama told me that the book was hers and everything else was mine, and I said, now is it all right if I take it home? No, I didn't want to. I should take it home before she got there. But she had all the papers thrown out in the middle of the floor. I grabbed this book as it was going out the door. I went out to the fire and was able to save one of them, but I only was able to save one of Mama's diaries, but she had kept a diary since she was 18 years old, and I've been in my life. This is a little one that she's got, January 22nd, she don't say what year. Every Sunday morning, 9 a.m., leaving town. Speedometer says 28,327. I had some cookies saved for Joanne. I gave them to Blanche instead. Going past our old homestead, the Hook Farm right now, at Harry's now, 10 minutes after 10. Leaving Sister Etta, and she looks terrible. Ate dinner at Canton, baked chicken, very good. Then we drove for miles out of the way and visited Paul and Ida May, saw some, and Sam, from 20 past 2 till 25 after 3. Got lovely roads and sure are splitting the wind. I am watching for cabins. Stayed all night in Bowling Green, Missouri, $4.50. Stayed all night last night in State Line Courthouse between Missouri and Arkansas. Left there about 7 a.m. Drove in the strongest wind I can remember driving in. Crossed the Mississippi River about 10 a.m. into Memphis, Tennessee. Took 78 out of Tennessee into Mississippi. It poured down rain, and our camp last night and yesterday was one big fog after another. Ate dinner today, Tuesday, in Holly Springs. The young Negro cooked it, and it tasted like my swell smells, I guess. Last night, Tuesday, stayed all night in Highway Motel 78. Very good night. Got settled nicely in bed, opened windows at night, and wham, went the window. I hollered, Hedrick, Hedrick, you found us. Mr. and Mrs. Dickey Deitchley ate dinner in Opelika, Alabama. Very good dinner. $1.33 for two. The sun is blowing down, bringing out the sweat. Hi-ho, ginger ale. Thursday, January 25th, 1950. Had car evidently looked at and washed and ate a big dinner here in Lake City. Same city we had our car fixed in 2 years ago. But bought 11 scenic cards to send to my ODOs. Got a folder to send to Clyde Kaufman's boy from kindergarten work. February the 20th, 1950, Monday morning, leaving Orlando. But every place she went and everything she did, the price of chickens, the price of eggs, the price of milk, was written down, and Maud burned all that stuff up, and I could just have screamed. But there's one I hope I can find. This one was written in 1947. I think I didn't even know I had that one over there, but there's one of it. She wrote a poem in hand. Shoot, I'm not sure it was this one. I've never read this one, I guess. But it was a poem that she wrote to Dad, and it was so cute. And Mama only got to go to the 4th grade, Kirk, but look at her writing. That was her school subject. I don't think any of us can write like that.
Did she write all this?
Mm-hmm.
All these poems?
Mm-hmm. No, well, no, those were just copies. No, the poem that she wrote, I haven't been able to find.
Well, there's in this book there's poems.
Is it? Well, most of those are copied. She was a poetry theme. This was written in 1908. Mrs. Violet Breon, Henry College. Dear cousin, I'm writing you concerning Elizabeth Miller's estate. As you know, we expect to try and have the deed made to Lemuel Miller set aside, and to do that would be necessitate some expense. So I would be glad if you will see your sister who is living in your state and collect from her. Also send your part of the expense. All that have contributed so far have given me $5 apiece. We thought that would be sufficient to start the matter, and later let the lawyers take it on a certain percentage of what we get. Lemuel's heirs have advertised the land for sale for the 9th of January 1909. So we shall have to get busy to prevent the sale. We expect to have our bill of complaint ready to draft this week. Cordially yours, Mary Patterson. Kindly send the record of verse again as I have mislaid the ones you sent, respectively. Wonder what that was all about. We, the undersigned legal heirs of the estate of Elizabeth Miller, contribute the amount set opposite our names for the purpose of defraying the necessary expense of collecting evidence and preparing the case for trial with a view to selling the estate of a certain deed from said Elizabeth Miller down the lease to Lemuel Miller, now deceased. Elizabeth Miller. Would that be Grandpa Miller's second wife? I didn't know.
Grandpa Miller's. Robert?
Robert. There was,
I didn't know he was married.
well, there was no record of his ever being married the second time. But Mom always said she didn't know whether they were ever legally married or not. But I know that he lived with them after Grandpa died.
Well, he died in St. Louis,
He did.
but he was buried in Logan County. And maybe he was visiting somebody. There's an Elizabeth Miller who was his sister, born in 1825.
Oh, I don't know who got the picture of him riding the ostrich when he went down to Hot Springs, Arkansas every year and took baths. Even when Grandma was alive, taking care of all that bunch of kids. But, and then he had a picture of him riding an ostrich down there. There's no picture of that anymore.
Yeah.
My stamp collecting daughter-in-law, if she would have only took the... Well, we'll run on, but you can go through English if you want to. We'll move it over here so they won't get mixed up with that other junk. Some of those letters are kind of interesting in there. But they're mostly letters that I get a kick out of this. I even saved Jerry's letters from Rent College. I think this is the one where Friday I went overboard and spent some money I probably shouldn't have. I bought myself a hat, shirt, and sweater. The sweater cost me $10. It is a little out of season, but I like it and got a good deal on it. It was $17.50. Well, that's about all the news for now. Have fun, love, Jerry. Yeah, see, now this was the twins, and I let
Robert and Lemuel?
I let Melvin Miller had the original picture. And the only way their kids to see, and it was pasted on the back of a big picture, and how the devil did that fit together?
Well, look at me. Well, that must be his. No, it can't be his name.
Yeah, that must be how there it is, just overlap pictures.
Melvin took the picture of him. The only way, well, this one, I know, was Grandpa Miller and this was Len. But Mama said the kids couldn't even tell them apart, and quite often, I asked Leslie if he remembered which one it was that wore the boots on the inside and which on the outside. And he couldn't remember, but I'm sure that Grandpa wore his pants on the outside of his boots and Uncle Len wore his on the inside of his boots. But once in a great while they decided to play a joke on their kids, so they changed the way it was. And Mama said even Grandma couldn't tell which was which.
Isn't it remarkable?
And I thought, now maybe we've skipped, what, 2 or 3 generations and not had twins. So look out.
Oh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to.
Well, I think that'd be it then.
No more after that. You said there wasn't any twin though.
I think corn. That's the one thing I missed since moving out to Oregon.
I soldiered up in Norton.
Oh yeah?
I should have made some cornbread out of your cornmeal, shouldn't I?
Mm-hmm.
You like cornbread?
Yeah.
Richard makes cornmeal out of sweet corn. He's got his own grist mill. What did you tell me here? I thought you said I told you about it. What did you say? No, I'll mix up some cornbread. I'll go down and get some corn first.
I was supposed to ask you about a Parker that's a socialite from Philadelphia. You know anything about her? Gary said you might know who she was.
Look, anything Mama could find to write on. J.A. stayed home all day today. Harry's birthday, Dr. called, Dr. Cole all day and most of the night. Paul, Ida May, and Harold Bond called. I mailed Harry's gift and card letter to Earl Saturday. Salt and pepper set to Mrs. Rockefeller. Jerry stayed all night. Blanche came and took him home to school at 12 a.m. Sunday bright. But still haven't found what I want to find. I think this is going to be it.
Do you know about the 5,020-mile trip that Jesse and Viola took from 1947 to the Northwest States?
To the Northwick in 1947. Well, we may be able to find a note about it.
It was in the paper, I noticed.
Well, see, Mama had a good friend that lived in Portland. Her name was Messer. His name was Fred, and her name was Maud. And I know they went there to visit. But as soon as Dad got to the place they had him in, saw Mom and Dad had a phobia about he wanted to see every state capital in the United States. And the time Mama died, he'd seen all but 6 of them. And then while he and Maud was living, I think he got to see all of them but the capital of Maine. They were going to the capital. And I said, well, Dad, why do you have that phobia? And he said, oh, of course, when they have news of any state, they usually show a picture of the capital. And I like to say, I walked up them steps. Well, this is a trip to Florida here. This is in 1948.
Do you know anything about where Samuel Parker is buried?
Now, would that be Martha, father?
He died here, but then her mother went to South Dakota and died.
I wouldn't be surprised by what he's buried in Shaw Cemetery.
Why would you think that?
Well, I'll tell you. If you got names that I've long since, let's run down here to Martinsburg Cemetery. There's lots of Parkers buried down there. Okay. And I wanted to see if this was the one. I can't tell. I know it's positive it's in a blue one like this, only I thought it was in one this size.
Gary wanted me to ask you if you knew anything about the L.A. being dropped before Breon.
The what?
L.A., I guess it was originally La Breon or something like that.
No, I'm sure he and Ross. Okay, here's Monday, January the 3rd, 1947, starting to Texas. 1:45 p.m. in Reynolds' office. Earl Brain and John Hagan are making a land deal. Brain sold Hagan 300 acres for $48,000. Jay's commission was $564. Reynolds was $376. This time is 7:30 and we are here in the Tumble Hotel room on the mezzanine floor, called 85, that's my number at Hedrick. Please answer. Tuesday the 14th, 1:40 I paid hotel and a long distance call, which was $4.72. Then we went to bed, and believe it or not, first time we have slept in twin beds in our 42 years of married life. Jess has finished up a deal with Clarence Cupsicker. He bought 160 acres known as Pat Hawthorne's place south of Clementine for $28,000. Left Tacoma 10 minutes past 4 for Warren Gerdines and saw his sheep, and Mr. Gerdine paid J.A. $616 for corn. Left Gerdines at 6:10 for Kirksville. Landed at Travelers Hotel. Hadn't been a room available since morning, so we drove to La Plata around 8 p.m. some day. A little past 3 this afternoon, we drove to hospital. Jesse saw his sister 80, gave her $35, and we went back to EP's gas here at $1 at La Plata. Got a hotel room for $2. Got up at 5, left La Plata at 6, and drove to Huntsville 25 past 7, and surprised Della and Charlie ate breakfast, and surprised Della and Charlie. Del and Charlie, Lord, some relation, but I can't.
Bond?
Del and Charlie. The girl's name was Grace Locke. Had the grandest dinner at 4 p.m. for 50 cents, starting 4, and got to Carthage. Nice room with 2 beds, 2 1/4. Gas Wednesday was $3. This is Thursday morning, leaving Carthage at 6 p.m. I feel bummed. While I saw the Ozarks was beautiful, but we didn't get to start. The car refused to go, so we are waiting for a repairman. Had car fixed for $2, got 7 miles on the way and had to send back to garage man. He came and pushed us back. Fixed $10.59 more and got me a cup of coffee, piece of pie, sandwich. Got $2 of gas, stopped at Springdale. Hunted up Mrs. George Kennan. Then came on to Taylorville. Stayed all night in the mountains. Started out at 6:30 Fort Smith, then we drove about 400 miles today, got lost this evening and drove 36 miles out of the way, so here we are back at Henderson, staying all night at Hotel Randolph, Texas. Gas $4 all told today. So in 47 they went to Texas.
Well, this was in, let's see, May 12th to June 5th.
Yeah, well, I remember when Mama come back. I don't remember what they went out there for. Ordinarily on that kind of trip, Dad had a business deal cooking. But while they was staying with the Messers, Mama sent me a pressed pansy, and it was about that big around. And someplace, I never threw any letter away of Mama. Someplace I got a letter that says, I wish you could see it. The roses are as big as dinner plates. I remember and she always said, if you want to see something beautiful, go to the state of Oregon in the month of May. But this is to Texas and back here. There in Oklahoma. Today, Thursday, February 27th, 1947. Drove to Oscusa, parked in front of Yellow Canary Cafe. I went over to the restroom and came back. Went to Smart and Thrifty Shop and got a dress, came back to the car, and a lady said that was the Grand Cafe, so we had a grand dinner, came to a tunnel, and got Jay a shirt. But she just didn't make little notes. She'd write a page to tell you everything they done. I wouldn't have taken anything you wrote for them. Well, the thing that I'm wondering is where the hell I put. You didn't see a letter on feed stationery on yellow paper that was poorly typed. When Jerry was born, I got a letter from Dad. I've got it here someplace. I don't think where I put it. I'm always moving for safekeeping and then forgetting where I put it. But he started out, to my dear little sweetheart of 30, to my dear sweetheart of 36 short years ago. Got your letter today. I think he said he was enclosing $2.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Did you?
That's
Where's
in-
it? Is it in here?
Yeah.
And if you need some money, there's $10.
They said there's $15 or $20 in the bank. Yeah.
Well, I've been meaning to get that put between see, that was when Jerry was born and Mama was taking care of me. I'd like to find that. I'd like to have Eileen read it. Oh, I was going upstairs and see if I could find your folks. Runs in mine, but I gave that to Phil. But if it's here, I know right where it's at. You on a piece of yellow paper.
Pretty sure it's in here. 'Cause I saw it.
Mom always wanted a fur coat. And I told her I'd go with her to help get it because she'd had a stroke and her mind wasn't real sharp. And the day that she was to go, I was supposed to go and meet her, and some people come to see about horses. And I met her on the bridge over the railroad track. I was going in telling her she was coming out. But she'd already bought her coat, and it was sheared raccoon, which was 10 times too heavy for Mama's little shoulders to carry. And Dad didn't ask her a thing about what she did for her or anything. She brought it down. She bought it for me. There was no question in my mind ever, because I took care of Mama. Always. And Dad always was handing the boys money, and he never gave me any. And so in order to even it up, when Mama wanted to get me something, she got it. But she knew that she'd pretend like she was going to wear it for a while. And she put it on. It really looked real nice on her because she was small and the coat was big, and it didn't make her look like an elephant like it did me. And Dad said, how much did it cost? And Mama said, $1,671. No, she said $6,710. And my dad wasn't as white when he died. And Mom, no. She said, I mean $671. But I took the bill saying. Because I could see him standing out there in the kitchen yet. Oh, Dad turned so white.
I think I would have turned white too.
Well, if she'd have paid it for it, he wouldn't have said anything. Well, I didn't see it. Do you, Kirk?
It was in here. I thought it was near the bottom.
I'm going to, if we find it, I'm going to take it out of there and put it there. No?
Is it in the envelope?
I don't remember if it was in an envelope or not.
It never was before. It wasn't in this box.
That might be.
My mother was very artistic. Could just paint or draw anything. This picture is not. Are you going to have time to go by and let Verily meet Eileen?
Oh, I don't know. I'll just have to see.
Well, you keep looking for that yellow thing, and I'll go upstairs and see if I can find Joanne's picture. If it isn't right where I think it is, well, then I know that this leaves us all well, and hope it may find you the same, except Lois's boy, as I have wrote R.O.T.E. to you in my other letter. Concerning this sickness, he is not much better. He is I never get, it looks like ANAX is still running, and he is still confined to the bed. The rest of the time he is all well. Last I heard of them, Mother is down to today. She is well and has enjoyed better health this winter than common, but has got right stout again. James's wife has got a large fine boy, 4 weeks old, and his name is Clint. Melbourne. Folks have moved on. Sam Jones' place, the folks have moved on Sam Jones' place. Close to the place. See, you've got to think like they think. C-H-O-S-T, close. To the place where they lived when you was out here. Well, we have had a long, cold, stormy winter. It has snowed about the 15th of last December, and it is here yet. We have had good sledding almost every day since. The snow is this day over 2 feet deep in the timber and level, and a good many of the lanes is drifted full, so that we have to go across the fields, and it looks like it might last. Sometime yet it looks like a slim chance for farming. It is bound to be a late spring. Well, both Bob and I think that we are going to have a railroad running right through the part of the city of Ioki. And the city of Ioki now is one house and a fertilizer plant. It's on the road as you go straight on, instead of going to Sigmund, straight on down. And let's see, it is the Burlington and Northwestern. Time is good. Corn is 20 to 23 cents a bushel. Wheat is 60 to 65 cents a bushel. Oats are 25 cents a bushel. Potatoes, 60 to 75 cents. Hogs, $4.70, that's a hundredweight, to $5 per hundredweight. Cows range from $25 to $60. Anything of a good horse will bring 100 to 125. Good day, night, soon. To one and all, W.H. Bragg. So that was written 100 years ago. Richard, here's the letter from my mother. Her family. He said, the times are good here. Corn is 20 to 23 cents a bushel, 50 to 35.
Robert A. Miller. Lizzie C.
$4.75 to $5 per hundred. Cows range from 25 to $60. Anything of a good horse will bring
You know who that is? Is that a picture of somebody? Is that
this day and night?
the road here?
March 2018.
Still that on? Still that on?
Just recorded you.
20 to 23 cents corn bushel. That's from Mama's father here, Robert. Oh, this is a bill, interest, receive payment in full, 1889. But Melvin just took home from many of the letters, and these were some I just absolutely wouldn't let him take home.
Why won't he return them?
Well, the letters, I more or less, let him have them. It's been 10, 15 years ago, but I would like to have a copy of that one. Can you make any of it out? See, none of them had school education, and if they knew how to write, their words were spelt like they sound. So you've got to put yourself in their place, and if you don't know how to write, now I've got jillions of those. That's not Mama's writing, that must have been their dad's writing. It's the same thing Mama's got written in the book. For the taxes?
He paid $2.74 in taxes.
I was over 2,000.
Now, wait a minute. And that is the January 9th, 1860, isn't it? Well, that would be my great-grandfather, the one that died in the Civil War.
He and his brother. Oh,
Because
there was actually 4 brothers that went into the war.
Two
2
of
of them
them.
died.
But see, my dad had a brother, John, too. Mark showed it. Yes, the tax relief for my great-grandfather, it was January 9th, 1860. The tax was Yeah.
You can start a museum. Memento.
I wish you'd have seen it before. I wish you'd have seen it before I give so much of it away.
Yeah.
I was going to go upstairs. Let's see in physical training. This is the clincher of all things. See, there was as always, a shyster in everybody's family. And supposedly there was a millionaire someplace that died that was supposed to be in the family. And Aunt Crone was the only one that was dumb enough to fall for it. And every cent of money she laid her hands on, she mailed to him to help settle the estate. And there was never any estate. There's my husband that's all stuck in there looking at his own stuff. Here's a quick claim deed. Elizabeth Miller just a Coleman Miller. So they must have finally got that estate settled. Elizabeth Miller, a widow. She was Elizabeth Miller, a widow. That was, she evidently was the one that Robert Miller married. Now, I don't know how anybody could ever prove whether they were married or whether they weren't. But Elizabeth Miller, the other one would have been Grandpa Miller's. Now, this is my dad's writing. Sophron Miller, on the 3rd day of March 1909, is known to me personally as an identical person whose name was affixed to the above mortgage, the grantor and acknowledged executor of the same, her voluntary act and deed witness my hand. Received from Hoffman's $248, $1,000 received on day sale was made 28,000. Now, I often wondered how Aunt Crone had to live on. She evidently sold her farm. Received and applied on a Tumlin note and entrance balance of $7,882. Received and deposited in State Bank of Hedrick $18, still back help by just Breon. No. Paid in full. $20 paid on bill purchase down for $11,490 paid on the day of sale. Paid mortgage and note to Francis Bond for $7,000 due in 1 year. That's quite obviously Dad must have had to help settle Grandpa Miller's estate. I thought Uncle Fritz and Uncle Sam was but didn't you say that's what that's all about?
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about Robert Miller's father, George?
No. Don't have the biggest idea where any of those they come from.
Because I really don't know anything about him except the birth date. That's it. When they were married.
Now, see, I don't know what the courthouse of New Holland. See, they all was raised up around New Holland, Illinois. Now, if I was out there, I think I could still drive to Mama's home place. I'm trying to think of the people's name that own it. Lola Stubbs at Fremont Hotels. North out of New Holland, about 2 miles. And then we turned east, and it was a big square house on the left-hand side of the road. But the only Miller that I know of that's still alive, of Mama's family, that still lives in Illinois, is this Madge Gallagher, that's head of the nursing home in Lincoln. She is older than I, but whether she knows very much about the family, I do not know. Or she always lived there. And maybe her family cared enough about family to tell her things. I don't know. I truly don't know. Would you like to go to the cemetery and look at those things, or would you rather look through this chart?
Well, I had some questions in there. I got any more for you.
Be full of them today.
When did Maud die?
When we got the cemetery next? When did my dad die?
66.
She died in March of 68. No, wait a minute, she died in February.
What do you remember about Diana Breon?
Are you talking about Diana?
Breon.
Well, she lived when I was 16 years old, and I wasn't aware of the fact that she had probably 50 or 60 grandkids and great-grandkids, because my mother was the only person that ever went to do for her. And as you saw those pictures of her, she looked just like that from the time I was big enough to remember. Now down in the basement, I have the little table that I've been trying to get refinished for the last 20 years. That was her dining room table. And her house, when she lived in town, was where the new post office in Hebron is now. And Dad had the bank across the street from us, and he could look out the window and see her. And that particular year, Aunt Mandy Cobble died, Dad's mother died, and Grandpa got married again, and Dad had about all on his mind he could take, and he missed seeing Grandma for 2 days. So she had a stroke and lay on the kitchen floor, and it was way below zero, and all she had to heat the house with was a cook stove. It was a coal stove, and a heating stove in the front room. And sub-zero weather, she laid there for 2 days and 2 nights, and by gosh, they was able to bring her out of it. And then she lived, a good 2 years after that. But I've heard my granddad say that some of the other side of the family grabbed them. She had two spinning wheels, one great big one and one little one. And the Boland side of the family grabbed onto them real quick and got them out of the house. But I've heard my granddad say many a time, see, she was married and had 3 kids. I don't know how many kids Mr. Meckford had. I think maybe 4. And then she and Mr. Meckford had 4, 3 girls and a boy. And Granddad said as a little kid, he said he could hear his mother running back and forth and back and forth all night long, spinning her yarn, carding it and spinning it, so that she could weave the material to make their blankets and their pants and everything. And he said it wasn't unusual to hear her feet. I never really watched anybody run a spinning wheel enough to know what it was that they run, but somewhere that they combed that wool out and then they'd give the wheel a whirl, and that made this little spindle on the side go around, and that twisted the wool into the thread they could work with. But he said as a kid he'd hear her running back and forth till he didn't know what to do. Well, I truly thought I was the only granddaughter she had. I'd never seen any other kids there till after she was dying, and my gosh, they started flocking in by the hundred. But Mama went once a week and took her hair down and combed her hair full. In my lifetime, I never saw her have teeth in her mouth. And her hair was just as white, and she was just as wrinkled when I was a little kid and could first remember as she was when she died when I was 16 years old. But she was a very, very small person and a very loving person, and probably had as hard a life as anybody in the world, but you never heard her complain. Because she was left with those 3 little kids when great-grandpa went to the war, and then everybody said, now I didn't know Mr. Meckford at all. He died before my time. But everybody said that he was a very sour, domineering man. And by the time you raise your kids and his kids and our kids all in the same house, you know it isn't very pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of her second family, there was Aunt Lenny Buxton, who her husband ran the first big creamery in Ottumwa, where they made ice cream. And Buxton's ice cream was what? 31 flavors is what I want to say. Baskin Robbins is now. Only it was made out of real cream and it was delicious. Well, I remember once going, we'd go down to Aunt Lenny's because she was just my dad's half aunt. But they were comparatively close, all of them. And we went down there, we were invited down one Sunday for dinner, and I can see myself yet. They lived way out in the west end of town, and there was a schoolhouse just right down below. And when you got up to their house, it was definitely the mansion of Ottumwa at that time. And as you pulled in the alley, there was a great big thing that looked like a barn, only it was a place for automobiles. And then you walked into this big house, and it had dumb waiters and all this kind of thing. And Estelle, their only child, she had just graduated from high school, and she had a string of real pearls that just barely went around her neck, and it would be $1,000. And I thought, oh, dear heaven. But Esther was a very nice person and sweet and all that. And she was married to a man by the name of Vermillion. Sure that was his name. And they were the most devoted couple you ever laid eyes on. When her folks died, she found out that he had been living with another woman and had 3 children by this other woman, and she never even suspicioned it. Well, he was such a good financial manager that she had let him get everything that her folks had in his name. I understand she's still living someplace in Missouri, but she actually died very, very, or if she's still living, she very, very poor because he got everything that there was away from him. To think that she grew up in such luxury. But see, my grandmother was not aware of any of those kind of things that went on. Then my grandmother, one daughter, Lavina, would that be Lavina? Yeah, Lavina Harwood. She was married to a man named Harwood. And she died quite young and left 3 girls and a boy. Well, there was Gail Harwood. She married a Gallagher and lived in Yuma, Arizona. And there was Annie. My grandmother raised her. My great-grandmother raised her. Then there was another by the name of Annie. And one of her aunts, Aunt Mattie Bowen, raised her. And I can't think of the other girl's name. The Harwood family raised her. She was a very mean-tempered sort of girl. You haven't got that turned on, have you? Because I'm going to tell you something I don't want recorded. A wool carpet on her kitchen floor. And it came right up to within about 3 feet of her cook stove. And she cooked winter and summer on a cook stove. And every blessed week, there was a big kettle of sudsy water in there, and an old stick mop with a little pair of worn-out underwear in it, and that rug was scrubbed till well, there was really nothing left of it except the backing. You could still see the design, but it was as clean as a pin. And as old as she was, I'd never seen anything out of place in my great-grandmother's house, and I'd never seen anything dirty. She had palsy, and there's no way that you or I could walk across the floor with a cup on a saucer and have it jump and dance all over the place and rattle-de-clatter, never spill a drop of coffee. But I don't know whether Gary still has that or not. When he was about 20, he had his palsy like this, so his hands would shake sometimes. It would make the nervous wreckage. I said, well, I hope he's got. I thought that was him. It was more nerves than anything. It just worried me sick because Grandma had it, and her hands would go like this all the time, you know. And she'd go to bring a cup of coffee, which thank goodness I didn't drink, but she'd have that cup in her hand, and that cup would just be rocking. No way. She was plenty coffee. Then Grandpa Kaz got married. I think Grandma was only dead 9 months when he married Ora. And he and Ora were going to go to see Grandma Ora was raised down in Beaumont, Texas. And they were going to go down there. She was friends with the people that owned the King Ranch in Texas. So they were going on a year's honeymoon. They took off in that old case car. And when they got home, the stories that Grandma would have to tell, I tell you, you just die laughing. Grandma was 20 years younger than Grandpa. But you never knew it to be around him, and she just adored him. And to me, I'd have knocked him dead because he was very crude. But anyway, they were invited out to a big dinner at the King Ranch, and they had finger bowls, and they had this and that and the other thing. When it got to the finger bowls, and they were sitting there in front of him, Grandpa said, Ori, what the hell's that thing? Grandma kicked him under the table, tried to get him to shut up. Said, well, damn it, Ori, I want to know what it is. Grandma said, everybody just roared. And he said, somebody told me that was a finger bowl. He was supposed to wash his fingers. And said he looked in and he said, well, thank God I don't have to drink it. His favorite pet word was, I, Jesus Christ. I, Jesus Christ. Well, they were supposed to be gone a whole year. And they knew that probably Grandma Diana wouldn't live the year out. And they had told Dad not to bother to try to get a hold of him. Well, I don't think they were gone but about, probably a couple of weeks when she did die. But Dad got a hold of them, and they came back on the train for the funeral, and then got right back in the car and headed. They were partway down to Texas at the time. And we were having a blizzard in February. And it was one of those blinding blizzards that you couldn't see anything in. And that was the one that Brother Burl got lost out the back pasture in. And that was the first time we realized how bad his asthma really was, because he didn't think he'd ever get in the house. Well, there was a fence around the yard with what they called a coal gate over here, which was two fancy gates that opened to let the coal truck in to put coal in the basement. And we looked out there, and in the wintertime, most of the time they left that down open because it could snow and then you couldn't get it open for the coal truck to come in. We heard this car pull in the coal gate. And Mama said, well, what in the world? And we went and run. It was Grandpa and Laura in this blizzard. We went out, went running out to help them get in. And Granddad's standing there. Ah, Jesus Christ, the center of the universe, the center of the universe. We said, what on earth did you want to come home for? He said, I stayed just as long as I could. He said, this is the center of the universe, and I wouldn't give a damn for the whole rest of this United States of America. And he was a caution.
What do you remember about the Blue Jean School?
I started the school there, and your granddad Burl started there when he was 4 years old. The school teacher lived with us. And there's no question about it. Burl must have been an awful cute little boy, and I'm there in the mud. Mama said after I was born, and she'd go any place, before she could possibly lay me down to grab him, said if there was anybody, our old sewing machines were treadle sewing machines, and they had 2 drawers on each side. She said invariably, if she'd go into a house, he would know where the sewing machine was, or he could find it before she could possibly lay me down, and he'd have all the drawers pulled and dumped on the floor. Well, the school teacher lived with us. Her name was Maud O'Brien. And she thought Burl was so cute, she wanted to take Burl to school with her. Mama thought he was too old, or too young, because he was just 4 in September, and he started his blue jeans that year. Well, of course, it about broke my heart because I couldn't go too, and I was 3 years younger than Burl. So Burl must have gone there, let's see, it would have been two full years then before I'd get to start. Well, I'd be more than that, because if Burl was 4, I would have only been 1, wouldn't I? And I didn't get to start till I was 5. So Burl must have gone down there 5 or 6 years. And I started then and went 1st grade and 2nd grade down at Blue Jeans. And to me, it was the most beautiful schoolhouse in the world. There wasn't any other country school that had a hall on one side for the girls to hang their clothes and a hall on the other side for the boys to hang their clothes, and then you had to open a door and go on in. Everybody else, as you walked in, you was in the schoolhouse. And we had blackboards clear around and a gray big heating stove in the back of the building, and I just thought it was heaven. Well, by the time I got to the school, we had a man school teacher, and his name was Melvin Whittington. Well, Burl was born, I was born down here on the corner, and Burl was born a half mile up the road in the first farmhouse that my folks ever bought. But it was really a lane more than a road, and it still is. It looks just about today like it did then. And I always thought that was the Bryn Cemetery down there, but it isn't. It's the Hook Cemetery, but it's mostly Bryn's buried in it. But we had to walk down there, past that cemetery, to go to school. And of course, Burl and Willis Bryn always walked with me when I was a little kid. And they had me so convinced that somebody was going to jump out of that cemetery and get me that I was half scared to go to school. Well, one day we was started home from school, and we used to have a lot of gypsies roaming the country. And we got down almost to the cemetery, and there was a gypsy camp by the cemetery. Now, boy, I tell you, them 2 smart little boys wasn't so smart, because we turned around and we ran back to that schoolhouse just about as hard as you could run. And Melvin Whittington, at that time, was driving a horse and buggy to school. But, you know, it really happened. The gypsies really did kidnap little kids back in those days. And I was so sure that if I made a step down there, that they were going to kidnap me. And Mama had said later that they had been at our house that day and tried to steal a hog. She took after him with a broom and chased him off, but she go after everybody. But today it would seem impossible, and I'm sure that as good a school teacher as my son is, and as good a school teacher as your father is, that they'd have been a darn poor teacher in a country schoolhouse where you taught 8th grades at one time. They wouldn't have had the know-how to begin how to do it, because everything is so run by computers and everything else that there's no way that they could have two classes reciting at one time. When it was your turn to recite, you went up and sat on the front row of seats. And maybe the kindergarten kids would be reciting and the 8th grade kids would be reciting, and that teacher could ask both of them questions and keep up with the class. But there was no question about it. When you come out of one of those schools in the 8th grade, there was no town kid that could keep up with your education. Because from the time you'd been big enough to listen, you'd gone through the 8th grade. If you started in the 1st grade, you'd gone through the 8th grade 8 times by the time you were through it yourself. And you knew it. And we never did have any problem with any kid out of those country schools failing, because, and just like you knew that Jess was a school teacher. You didn't. Well, he graduated from the 8th grade, and I up and gave his picture of his class to Willard Klingman because his mother was in it, and I asked Willard to put it in the paper so I could have a copy of it. And he's never done it. But now, if you'd like to have a copy of it, we can go up to Willard when he gets home tonight and take a picture of it. Because Dad went to Cedar Falls, what they called one semester, after he was out of the 8th grade. And then he come home and he taught country school down in east someplace, I don't know just where. But my gosh, the kids was all bigger than he was. I don't know how long he taught. Jerry's got his school bell. I think the things that Jerry was afraid I was not going to let him have, when he comes, he says, "Hey, I want this." And as long as he was a school teacher, but it was a beautiful brass bell. Every school teacher had to furnish their own bell to ring for recess. And of course, my memory of school days down there is just little things like the lesson boys giving me that big marble and fighting over it. I remember the reunion down there real good. And of course, you read the Blue Jeans book. And to think that Dad's father went there, and then Dad went there, and then Harry didn't go there, but Pearl and I both did.
Harry's name's in it.
Well, he went to the reunion. But, well, now wait a minute. Maybe I'll take that back. Harry's 2 years younger now. And we moved up here when I was in the 3rd grade. I was born in 1911. We moved here in September 15th, 1919. But I'll bet anything that Harry went there those first 2 weeks in September before we moved. Because when we moved up here, Harry went to school too. And if he went to school there at all, he went 2 weeks. Let's take paper and pencil and go over that temperature, or else take your...
I'll take my camera.
He's pretty good with the camera.
I mean, you want to take your tape recorder, would you rather... Or just take... Well, the writing on great-grandmothers, in order to get it, we're going to have to take some chalk and mark over to make it come out clear.
Okay.
Now we can probably find the chalk.